Today I talk with Justin Imbastari about his near-death experience. Justin went into cardiac arrest while surfing in San Onofre, California. Nearly drowning, Justin was put on his board and pushed into shore where he would collapse. After multiple heart surgeries and a couple miracles, Justin is still with us today and did not suffer any brain damage. His second lease on life is powerful and can teach us all to be more present and loving. Harley.
I'm a little skinny right now, but
No, dude, you look good. You look healthy.
yeah,
You filled
I
out.
feel healthy for sure. I mean, I was like 120 when I came out of the hospital. I was at 160. When I was before the hospital, I was 165. Yeah,
And then you lost like 40 pounds.
I lost
basically.
40 pounds in the process of two weeks.
Jeez Louise. Well, when you have a near-death experience, I imagine you're going to be losing some weight. So you had a heart attack.
Cardiac arrest.
Cardiac arrest. There's a difference,
there's
right?
a difference.
So you went into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
In San Onofre, surfing.
Yeah, while surfing with
Dude.
buddies. Let's explain the difference between a heart attack and
cardiac arrest.
Cardiac arrest. Heart attack is when the coronary artery becomes blocked, and heart attack or cardiac arrest is when the heart stops pumping blood to the organs in the body.
I see. So it's like an electrical issue.
Yeah, it's an electrical issue.
Is cardiac arrest. Heart attack is like a blockage of some sort.
Yeah. In my case, I had a sudden cardiac arrest caused by myocarditis. The scientific term for the type of cardiac symptom or thing that I had was ventricular tachycardia, is when your heart just keeps going and it just keeps going at this like 250 BPMs per minute to like 300, let's say.
So that's what you went through. It was the heart was beating too fast.
Heart was beating too fast.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what's it called?
So this was from a blood infection. You said it was
a virus.
A virus
inflamed my heart. We don't know what the virus is called.
And you don't know exactly how you contracted it.
Don't know exactly how I contracted it. There's theories that it was this thing called sequela COVID, long COVID, and it's spelled SEQUELE, sequela COVID, and it's when you get COVID, and then months later, the effects of getting COVID fuck up your cardiovascular system, and then from that point on, you're just unaware of it. You're asymptomatic.
Yeah, long COVID is something that we're hearing now. So to give a timeline, when did the incident happen, and then when would it have been before when you potentially contracted it? Because you were describing that you were kind of sick, right?
Yeah, I was kind of sick. March, when everything was getting crazy, we didn't know what was going on or what COVID was. I was sick then, and then eventually
March 2020,
and then August or September 28th of 2020, last September, I went into sudden cardiac arrest without knowing what the hell was going on.
Okay, dude. So what happened that day? Did you sleep well? Did you wake up and feel off? Did you feel completely normal? Was the surfing trip planned? What went down when you woke up?
So it was a picture perfect day with my buddies. It was me, Austin, Aaron, our friend Tanner, Emma, and our friend Wes. There might be someone else too, but I can't remember. But we were all going to San Onofre to go surf. The waves are all right that day. It was like a gloomy day, and I remember everybody rushed out of the van, super stoked to surf, and I kind of just like waited behind and was like just hanging out by the van and like eating chips and guac, and had a kombucha with me, talking to Emma.
So you felt completely fine.
I felt completely fine at that point, but I was also like feeling a sense of like heaviness. And not really sure what that was. Maybe I was just nervous to paddle out. It's been a minute since. And, I had like a new board. So I was like, fuck, like what if this board sucks? And I was just like, not stoked on the board just yet. Usually like it takes me like 2 times before going before I'm like, let's go. I know this thing. So yeah. So eventually like 30 minutes, they're like surfing, having fun for like 30 minutes. We're at Old Man's and I paddle out. And I just remember just feeling super heavy and like super tired. Like my body was just like condensed, and it just felt heavy. And I remember I went under one wave and I kind of turtle rolled over another wave, and then I got back on my board, and I just remember just feeling like this. I couldn't like my breath started to slow down, and I just couldn't breathe anymore. And I remember seeing Austin Case, who you know, he was riding his new board, and he just slid right behind me, like I say, like 20 yards, and he was just like waving at me because he was just, you know, carving and stuff. And then Aaron had caught a wave right behind me, you know, right when it started to get heavy. So right when it started to get heavy, I remember just not feeling like stoked. I remember this is bad. So I was able to like get Aaron's attention and wave him down, like, hey, I need to get to shore, like I can't breathe. So he looks at me, he sees that I'm like changing colors, and then eventually my head's just dipping underwater. I'm just taking in water. Over and over, and then I grab his ankle, get on my board, grab his ankle, and I can't hold on because it's just like the process of like trying to grab something while you're trying to deal with whatever you're dealing with internally was just like I couldn't do it. So eventually he just saw that I was just like I just couldn't move, and like I was literally incapable of like or grabbing him to like get to shore. So he was able to push me into like the perfect wave. And in that process of pushing me, I just like I remember gliding and like getting to the rocks, right where, you know, I think Old Man's is. There's a bunch of rocks. You know, if you served Old Man's, you know where those rocks are. You know how annoying they are. I remember like getting up, and then I just remember just grabbing my wetsuit, trying to take it off, and in that process of taking it off, I couldn't do it anymore. I just gave up, so I just fell, and then eventually like I felt like someone's hands grabbed me. I think it was Austin and Aaron, and they were just yelling help. And then they, you know, I just couldn't move. And then two other guys, off-duty lifeguards, came by and were able to like grab me and put me on the board. And in that time, I don't remember much. I just remember that I blacked out, and Austin Case has like a vision of me, or like an image of me just like peacefully smiling, and he said that the off-duty lifeguard went to go check the pulse at my ankle, and he said no pulse. And Austin's like, he's fucking with us, like this, stop fucking with us. And Austin said, my smile looked so peaceful that he thought I was just this was some like joke or something.
No way.
Yeah, he's like you seemed so still and so like at peace that I didn't know if you were dead or fucking with me. He's like, yeah, and you know, there's a whole like part to that situation that I'm still like trying to dissect myself, but I think at that moment is when I kind of had my out of body experience, and kind of just like released that weight of like trying to fight whatever I was fighting was like forcing me to like, I was like forced to unattach myself from like that physical like plane that I was in, you know, the pain and all that stuff. And
that's a common occurrence with people that have these experiences. To go back a little bit, so when you're out in the sets and you feel like overwhelmed, that you can't breathe, you said Aaron was the one that looked at you and like said you were kind of turning colors and went to assist you. You were too weak to like actually grab onto him. So you're taking water on at this point? Are you actually submerging and kind of like drowning a little bit?
So
how much water were you?
Like, I wasn't aware that I was taking water. This is the doctors saying that I took in a lot of water.
I see.
But I probably took in water. You know, my friends have no idea if I did or not. No one really knows.
But you were off your board in the water?
I think I took in water when I was rolling, turning.
Like
when I was like trying to get my turtle rolling into the waves and stuff. So I think that's when I took in water. I wasn't really aware that I took in water because I was like, what's happening?
I see. Okay, so you're like, what's happening? You can't really exactly recollect what was happening in that moment. It's like you're trying to piece everything together, but was it like your heart was racing super fast at that point, and that's why you were kind of...
I had no idea it was my heart. I thought I was just like... a
little nervous, tripping out. Like you didn't know what was happening.
I thought I was really out of shape at that point.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, geez, like I know I haven't surfed in a month or a couple months, like, but like I should not be this out of shape. Like I was pretty in shape at the time. Like I remember I told you I was like training for an Ironman and like running and all this stuff. Yeah, I was stressing on my cardiovascular health, but like I was like surfing, like I could do this.
You got this. And then Aaron goes to put you on the board and kind of send you off.
Sends me off into
back into
shore, which is like a good, I don't know, maybe like 50, 40 yards.
Just a perfect roller.
A perfect roller. Yeah. It was insane. It was just like this miracle. He's like, there were no waves that day. And he's like, I managed to push you into that wave that was able to like send you in, because keep in mind, like when you pass out and you go and your heart stops pumping blood to your organs and everything else, like you go brain dead after like 4 or 5 minutes. You start to lose, your brain capacity starts to dwindle down, and those minutes are essentially really vital. Like they call it the chain of life, immediately getting me under compression. So when Aaron, Austin, and then these two other guys, these two off-duty lifeguards who are homies now, we talk all the time. Shout out to you guys. You guys are angels. You too, Austin and Aaron. You know that already. Yeah, they were able to like put me on my board on it like as a stretcher and carry me to the lifeguard tower. And there, I think some Marine, like I don't know who it is exactly. Still don't know. Could have been the two guys. We haven't really talked about this in a minute. So he was able to like give me compressions like until the ambulance arrived. And I think one of the lifeguards that was on duty was able to like get defibrillators and shock me on the beach. And I think on the beach, I went into cardiac arrest twice. So once when I was surfing, I went under, and then a second time on the beach. That's when they had to get the defibrillators and shock me. And the guy that was running the chain of life, like giving me compressions, actually, he caused me to bleed internally, but didn't break my ribs. So the compressions that he did were just so like powerful. They were like with force that like I was able to I stay coherent, able to like have a conversation with you today.
So crazy? He kept your brain
He kept my
alive.
brain. He kept the oxygen going by just like
What happened with the bleeding internally? What was ruptured?
Nothing was ruptured. It was just like the internal swelling of like just getting that trauma to the chest.
But you'll give that up, right, to keep your brain going?
Yeah, I'd give that up any day. Any fucking day.
That's so crazy that they happened to be on the beach, and that's a very south beach towards the military base.
San Onofre, yes.
Yeah, you have a lot of like off-duty military members there, and then you have these two lifeguards that you're homies with. So I remember you describing you were kind of fighting what was happening to you. Let's say when you're getting pushed back into shore on the board, you're going in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
And this moment you described where you had your out-of-body experience and you kind of, according to Austin, like just visually looked at peace. Like, that's freaking nuts. But that's something that's common with people that get to the brink of death, with at least from what I've read, that I don't know if it's deemed some sort of God-like being or an afterlife that puts you in that place, or is it a biological mechanism that is just giving you the ability to cope with what's about to happen, like the reality of almost losing your life. What do you think happened internally with this out-of-body experience? Did you feel like peace and bliss? What were your feelings like?
I remember just everything just sounded so terrible. The yelling for help, the like franticness, the way everybody was moving was like really aggressive, and I was sitting there like just trying to like live and like doing like breath work and like trying to fight. And then I just remember I couldn't fight anymore, and I just like let go. I was just like, I'll be okay if I just stop fighting. I just had to tell myself that. I was like, I can't breathe anymore. Like I need to just let go. I'm about to like get in tears over this little scenario, but
dude, it's heavy.
It's heavy, and it's it almost felt like a baptism of some sort. Like just let go, live your life, go. Just like that's the thing that rings in my head is like this thing is so fragile, and that's snap of my life was just like a lesson to just like stay present and just
Yeah, I love how you say you got a second lease on life.
Second lease on life.
Aaron pushing you, that perfect wave.
Yeah.
The people that helped do compressions, keep your brain alive.
Yeah.
And the surfboard as the stretcher. So the ambulance arrives. And
well,
do you remember?
Let's go back to that experience where I felt like I had my own like out of body experience.
Yeah.
So I remember just like kind of feeling very light. And I obviously it might be due to the chemicals being released in my brain from passing out, blah, blah, blah. But like, I remember just being like lifted out of my body and just like feeling everybody's presence, but not really seeing them, just like feeling the chaos, but super unattached to it all because it all seemed so bad. I was just like, I'm okay. And I remember just like looking up and like, it was a gloomy day, but it just seemed really bright. The light seemed really bright. And I just remember it just felt like this like presence of like love was just surrounding me. like a ball, bro, and like this like warmth, and I couldn't define it, I couldn't understand it, but it nearly felt like something was wooing me closer and closer and closer to it. And I just remember just like, I mean, obviously when I woke up, I remember like, wow, maybe dying ain't so bad, you know?
I'm fucking tearing up right now. Is that God or what is that?
I don't know. We can all define.
But it's something.
It's something.
You think it's something out of the biological mechanisms in our head?
Yeah. Well, aren't you and I both made of God? So it's interesting, right?
It's so like crazy.
It's, yeah.
And then I remember asking you that there were no thoughts of like your closest loved one, or you weren't thinking about anything outside of like pure peace and bliss. And just being uplifted into just whatever was next. Like you were almost willing, like, all right, quit fighting. It's good. Just relax and go with what's about to happen. Yeah. Like, what is that, dude?
I mean,
that's so fascinating.
Isn't it like a virtue to learn when to let go? You know, virtue, like, isn't that one of the main virtues? I don't know. But it was like this release of the tension that I felt from fighting so bad. Even in those short minutes, like, I just remember feeling light and just feeling like peaceful, like equanimous with like everything around me. Even though it seemed so bad, it was weird. It was so weird.
Was it bad up to a point? Because correct me if I'm wrong, is when you were describing it was like fight, anxiety, what the hell's happening? And then it gets to a threshold where it's like, boom.
Yeah.
No,
boom.
You're
done.
And
then eventually I remember right when I was getting compressions, boom, I was back fighting, and I could feel like somebody just pushing on my chest, and then I passed out again. I didn't go through another experience, but then I remember then eventually waking up in an ambulance, which I thought was like my van. I was like, what are these people doing in my van? And then, because my van was an empty shell at that point, but I was in an ambulance. I was so confused, and you know, they're in blue shirts, blah, 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 and like I pass out again. And then eventually I get to the hospital, Mission Hospital in Mission Viejo. And right then and there, I was able to like say words. So they knew that like maybe my brain was still functioning and I had like enough oxygen. But at this point, they're like, he's 50-50. Like he's not responding to the medication we're giving him. And every time we touch him, the machines go off, like beep, 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 you know? And then I went into cardiac arrest again, twice in the ER. And then they resuscitated me once in the ER, and then later that night I went code blue, which is like cardiac arrest, everybody, all hands on deck. And I think it's hard. It's interesting because I wasn't awake during this time.
So you were out this entire time?
Yeah, I was out this time. So I mean, I obviously don't remember anything from the hospital until waking up.
So the last thing you remember was being in the ambulance.
Being in the ambulance.
And then boom.
Boom.
Everything in the hospital. This is all just accounts from other people.
Accounts from my dad, my friends, and So when I was in the hospital at Mission, they gave me a 50-50 chance. We'll see how he goes, we'll see how he ends up tonight. And during this time, my dad had to make some like executive decisions about what to do next. So what they did, I forget exactly what they did to me, because the night I went in, there was already signs that my organs and my kidneys were already decomposing. Like, because my heart had stopped and my lungs were just not working correctly. So due to COVID, due to all the research COVID has caused for a lot of medical teams, they thought it was like COVID related because my lungs were so full of liquid and blood and blah, blah, blah. They were like, oh, maybe he had COVID, went out, and his cardiovascular system got stressed. So they knew because of COVID that to flip me over, and that was able to drain out my lungs and cause me to stabilize just a little bit. And they were able to put an Impella pump. An Impella pump acts like a pump on your left ventricular. They attached a pump to my heart, and they were able to like allow me to like pump blood slowly to stabilize me. This is the next day, so the 29th.
Okay.
And so on the 29th, they were like, we have a small window of opportunity to send him to Scripps in La Jolla, San Diego. They have a really nice cardiovascular institute, Presby's. So they flew me in a helicopter for, I think it took 20 minutes to get there. They flew me in a helicopter. Like, this helicopter just had this whole medical team. It looked like an ER in a helicopter. I saw pictures of it after.
Gnarly.
Yeah. And they were able to fly me to Scripps. Took them 20 minutes. And then that same night, the helicopter lands. There's 10 doctors that rush out to come get me. And then in the event, I mean, let's say this is around 10 at night, maybe 10 at night. And there's 10 doctors come get me. And then right then and there, they put me into the operating room. They hooked me to the ECMO machine, which is a machine that acts as your heart and your lungs. It's like this machine that's like, there's all these like stacks of medicine, blah, 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 all these like buttons and tubes coming out. It looks like, have you ever seen The Matrix where Neo is like hooked into the machine in a way?
Yeah, pull that up. What's the name of the machine?
That's what my dad said it looked like.
What's the name of it?
ECMO machine.
ECMO?
ECMO. And on top of that, I was hooked into the Impella pump as well.
Dude.
Yeah. ECMO.
Let's check this out. Is that it?
Yeah, so you see I was like kind of going into the groin area.
Yeah, so where were these incisions?
These incisions were made in my groin area on my right leg.
Into the main artery
into the main artery, and then out the other leg to the other artery, so it was circulating, you see? And then I also had the Impella pump stuck in me, so I literally just was in bed with all these tubes and wires, and then I had a wire in my neck. I don't know why exactly.
Jeez Louise.
And
so this begs the question from what you were saying. When you were hooked up to all this stuff, weren't you in some sort of, what was it, psychosis? Is that
yeah,
the right word?
When I got to the hospital, I was still fighting to get out of the bed, so they had to put me in a medically induced coma. Well, on top of that, my organs were just failing, and they were just like, we don't know what to do. Like, he's not responding to the medication. So they just kept sedating me, and then still had the medication up to 100, right? And then,
do you know what this medication was at this point?
No, I don't know. I could give you the list.
It's all good. I'm just curious. I'm just curious, like, if someone's in that state, what?
It was like, dude, it was like 200 things of medication.
Dang.
Yeah, it was all like, it wasn't like I was popping it. I obviously had it like in my IV and stuff.
So you go immediately into surgery. You're hooked up to these machines, and how long was surgery? Was it successful right away?
So the Impella pump was successful because it allowed me to stabilize for a little short time.
Grant, can you pull up an image? Let's do the one in the. Okay, so is that where they entered into you?
I don't know if that's a specific one. That does not look like.
Go back real quick, Grant. Let's do. Keep going up. That one right there, yeah.
Yeah, let's look at that one.
Zoom in on that.
Something
That's
like
gnarly.
that.
So it's basically pumping blood for you, like.
Yeah, it's allowing the left ventricular to pump blood. Because my heart was so weak. It was pulsing at a very slow pace, kind of withering out at some points.
So initially, wasn't the diagnosis that it was going too fast?
Yeah,
and that caused it to go weak, basically?
It caused it to go weak. So it was never like stable.
Okay.
It was always just like, or down here where I'm just like, okay, is this kid going to make it?
I see.
Yeah. And
so you're in surgery, and what happens? So
Impella pump was the first surgery. And then I get to Scripps, flown to Scripps. That's the second surgery. That's hooked me up to ECMO.
Okay.
And if I don't come back from they call it the last resort machine in the hospital. It's like the last go at life. And if this doesn't help, nothing's gonna help. And eventually, like the first night, I started to I woke up the next night, I started to come back alive. I was just, my organs started to come back. It wasn't like I was fantastic or anything.
Were you still unconscious? But just
I
coming
think
back?
I was still unconscious. When you're under that amount of drugs and your sedation, it's just like you don't know what's real and not real. You're in a psychosis pretty much.
Psychosis. So this would have been the 30th.
Yeah,
at this point.
roughly around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were in this psychosis, we were talking briefly about it.
Yeah.
Like, you went through this array of what felt like almost a dream state for however many days it was, 5 or so days, where you were like, even though you're out, you're hooked up to all of these machines, and you describe what it was like, because you said you were in this crazy state for a couple days, because you were still like conscious even though you were unconscious.
Yeah. At the time, I felt like I had so imagine having the consciousness of a 5-year-old child staring at things around you and not able to make sense of any of it, and going through this like deep, dark adventure of, just what your mind can take you. Your mind can take you to some dark places. And there were a lot of nuances in there that had similarities to what had actually happened in reality. Like the nurses were all there, but they might have been different people. And the setting was pretty clear that it was at a hospital. It wasn't like my whole world changed. No, I was at a hospital. I felt the presence of female nurses. I felt the presence of male nurses, male doctors, female doctors. I felt the presence of my dad and my aunt Grace, who's a doctor, who was there most of the journey. But it was a series of making sense of everything. But then again, my mind wasn't able to make sense of what was actually happening. See, I had no idea I was in the hospital for a surfing incident or cardiac incident. So none of that made sense to me. So now we go into the crazy part, which is the psychosis, and I'll get into detail about it.
Please do. It's fucking trippy, dude.
So, I remember I was sitting in a dark black space, hooked up to, not necessarily hooked up to anything. Like, all that was in this space was my veins and my eyeballs and my mouth, and not even my skin or any of my organs. It was just like my nervous system, essentially, just splat in this dark room. And I would look around, and it felt like I had been in that dark room for like 3 days in my psychosis time, which was very, very long. It's not, nobody, don't go there. Yeah.
Do you have a visual representation?
Yeah,
so
I have a visual
literally
representation.
The system just spread out in a black
space.
Whoa.
And then eventually I remember, boom, I woke up. This is when I start to see like physical things, like a table, a random dude, my toes, my fingers.
But when
penis.
you say wake up, you're still unconscious.
I'm still unconscious.
Right? Okay,
so
this is all everyone. Just so
like,
everyone knows, you're still.
It's like
under.
Inception, when you're just like going from dream to dream to dream. That's what it felt like.
Yeah,
They all tied into each other because they all had the same, setting vibe.
Okay.
And I still have like the consciousness of a 5-year-old. Like, I feel like dumb. I can't think. I can't make sense of anything.
You're just making observations. You're just like table
person.
Like, okay.
Like, what's going on? Why am I here? And then I start to like rationalize it. And it was I had asked for this specific surgery that would allow me to live forever. And this surgery was like a little like capsule that was like supposed to be wedged into my skull, or like my brain area. It was like into the cavity of my brain. And that specific thing would allow me to wake up in this like AI suit. That was like this really like not delicate thing, but it was like perfect fine tuned. It looked like me, and it had my figure, but my like toes would light up. And that's when I was like, oh, what is this? Why is my toe lighting up? Why is my penis attached to my thigh and coming out a little thing? And it was really interesting because I woke up in this like body bag, and then I got up, was placed on a table in the hospital, and then all these like sketchy guys that were part of the surgery, like putting the membrane into me, just like dispersed. Everybody dispersed. And then these curtains fall. And then you just see nurses like walk in with like this mass confusion of like, why is this person here? Why we can't take care of this person? He's not real. And then everyone's just confused. Everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? You know? And the nurses are like, I can't believe he did this to us. They're talking about like the corporate doctor who's trying to push medicine into like he's trying to merge like the natural way of doing things.
Yeah.
By the natural way of doing things and like the technological way of doing things, and merging those two. She's like, he's a real person.
So you were inside the curtains with all these dudes that were giving you a really weird vibe.
Yeah.
At this point, they're operating on a body that you said is like AI. It's like you, but it's not you.
So it's me. I remember my eyes and my nerves, and
is
everything
it
else.
First person, or are you up above looking like down?
It's literally like how the camera's looking at me right now. It's like that.
Whoa.
But I'm the camera, so okay. So it is first person. It's first person. So
no, that would be second person, because you're looking at yourself being operated on.
No, I'm looking through my own eyes.
Okay, got it. It's first person. So then the curtains fall, and then you're in like a real world.
I'm in this like love and hate relationship with the medical staff.
And you said it's because you're battling between like the natural way of doing things and them hooking you up to this system that is going to make you live forever?
Yes.
Whoa.
Instead of naturally just dying. And
okay, so that it's almost like you went into this state, and your body, hence the peacefulness, the just going out, just let it happen, blah blah blah. And here we have these amazing medical devices that kept you alive.
Right.
And in your psychosis, you're almost going through this battle of like, wait. Why did they do this to me? Like, it was almost a bad thing that they were saving you and keeping you alive.
That's how
I think that's right.
You know, there's a million ways we could like write the story that happened. And, you know, I have talked about this with friends, and we've all tried to make sense of, you know, the bits and pieces. Like, why was that person there? Oh, that was probably my mom, like trying to tuck me in, you know, in the middle of the night. Or like, why something was glued to my leg. That was a part of like the membrane, where the membrane came from China. And they put it in my head, and that person was just trying to piss like me off by gluing that like the logo to my thigh and be like, "Fuck you, you deal with this."
Dude, do you think maybe it's
because I don't think
being out your body, humans just try to make sense of things no matter what. Yeah. And this is almost a case where even if you're unconscious and out, your body still knows it's getting an incision in your the artery in your thigh. It still knows your heart's being manipulated, your head, whatever it is.
It's when
and then you're just in like a dream state, just trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
It's an interesting like segue into like, you know, the body knows. You know, listen to your body. The mind might try to rationalize things, and you know, I think inherently we're very, very attuned to how our body feels. So.
With that being said, you're stoked that they did all the...
Stoked.
you're stoked they kept you alive and like, did the heart insert.
I'm 100% intact. And, you know, at the time, the psychosis was just like this terrible, terrible thing. But I didn't know what was going on. I just remember, you know, moments of it was like just testing my faith. And it was like my capacity to like... I was like, don't give up. That's the only thing that was going in my head. Even with the 5-year-old consciousness that I had, I just felt dumb. Didn't know what was going on. My brain was just like so messy, and I would just see pieces of people. And you know, the nurses would walk down the hallway, the door would be open, and they would just like yell stuff like, "Look at him. He thinks he's gonna live forever." Like, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for people who think they're gonna live forever.
Oh my God.
They would say that. Them say that. Yeah, they would say that walking down the hallways, and it would just keep coming. Like, and then, you know, one of the rent a person would be right next to me, because that was a part of like the installation of the membrane. Like, you had to have this person next to me.
Say that again. Rent a person.
Rent a person.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially.
So you were in a
from like Malaysia. They didn't know what they were doing. They were like 14-year-old girls just sitting at my bedside.
Okay.
Just taking care of me and like making sure nothing bad, like I don't do anything, like rip the cords out. And the nurses would be like, "Why are they here? Like, why are you guys here? You guys should be outside with your friends playing."
Whoa.
Yeah, it was trippy, and they would change every 24 hours, and then a new one would come in. I went through like 3 or 4.
Rent a person.
Yeah.
And how long do you feel
weird.
like you were in this state?
It felt like 6 to 5 days, maybe.
And it was pretty much this cycle just repeating. There wasn't anything like particular that happened. It was outside of that scope. It was
so there
battle
was
back
that
and forth.
darkness that I was in, that space, waking up in that room, and then eventually it was like these long nights of not sleeping, and then being poked at and pried at by like the medical team, and like trying to figure out why there's anarchy between like the new way of doing things and like the technological way of doing things and the natural way of doing things, and how all these like nurses and doctors are butting heads with each other, and they wouldn't operate on me because they were just like, he's not real. We don't want to do this. That's your responsibility, so-and-so up the corporate ladder.
He's not real.
He's not real. He's not a real person. Like, that's not right. We can't do this. This goes against my values and ethics. And at the time, I'm just
figure out why were they saying this isn't a real person? It was the dream state.
It was a dream state.
So what? God, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Dude. That's so trippy. So what happens when you wake up? Do you feel yourself? Were you able to like reflect and like, holy shit, I just came from that inception dream?
So it was a process of waking up. So it would be like, slowly I'd start to see things that made sense, but they still didn't make sense. So I would like there was the last day of me being in a psychosis. I remember this like night and day. I was wearing these like veneers that were like embedded into my eyes. And I had like this, I'd look down, I could see like all this like fabrication that was like underneath my neck. It was weird. When you play like
Terminator,
you could see like his chest.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Yeah. And I was looking down, and I was just like, remember, and then, later that day I started to like, my dad told me I had an allergic reaction to this specific drug called the Haldol. And it's I think it's like sedative maybe. And I remember I was like trying to hide from my dad and my aunt because I didn't want them to see me. And it was because I was having an allergic reaction. I was making these like faces that were like very horrific.
Their account, you were making these faces?
Yeah, their account and my account as well. So that was like, okay, that's what happened. I was just having an allergic reaction to a drug.
And then within the psychosis, when you say hiding,
I was hiding because I didn't
out of your bed at this point, and you were like moving?
No, I wasn't walking at this point. My legs are too frail. So
you feel like you were hiding, but you were just still in the bed.
I was hiding from them because I didn't want them to see me in that state. But the doctor was like, he's just having an allergic reaction. But I didn't know that. I thought I was like in a vegetable state.
Yeah. But the timeline of like what was actually
that's when I started
happening.
to have more like coherent and like ability to like see things. Like, that's my aunt, that's my dad, and I just felt like a vegetable. Like I was just like my head was jolting that way. And I would just like roll my neck, and like my mouth would go this way. I'd be drooling. My hands were just like doing the craziest things. And then I could just see my dad walk into the room, and he's just like crying because to his knowledge, like my brain was okay. And then, it was just crazy.
And then he thought you were like brain dead based on the allergic reaction.
Or something. Yeah, I had, because they weren't able to do an MRI on me the night I came into the hospital because I was hooked into those machines.
Yeah.
I was too sensitive. So, yeah.
So how long were you out before you woke up?
I don't know that for like
not in the psychosis, but like the actual days from your dad's point of view, like someone's account.
I woke up on the 9th of October.
Okay, so
that was
incident
like
28th,
7th, 8th, 9th.
Yeah. So it happened on the 28th.
I
was in the second hospital. Next day at night.
Hooked up to a ventilator, ECMO. Had a tube down my neck.
Ventilator.
Yeah, I was on a ventilator. I was on everything.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Did you have a sore or like esophagus?
Yeah, it
was
pretty gnarly after, and I was just like, gosh, man.
Because that's another thing with COVID too. The research that's come out is people that are put on ventilators, it was like bad. We thought that was saving everyone initially.
Yeah.
And it was breathing for you, and then your lungs would basically just turn off.
Turn off, right.
Holy crap. Okay, so you wake up on the 9th. And do you remember like the exact moment
waking up?
Like, was there any thought of like, holy shit, I'm here? Or did you truly just not know what happened?
I woke up. That's how simple it was, literally. And then I was happy as fuck. I remember just seeing like an actual like nurse's assistant. Like I was like, dude, you feel like not shady, like you don't feel like any of these other people that my psychiatrist was telling me about.
Yeah.
And I was like so happy. I remember I was just like, I felt like I was just like, I was blissed out, even though it looked bad still. Like I was in bandages, things were being pumped into me. I just woke up, and eventually I could see my dad and my aunt come to the room and just like gave me so many hugs and kisses and like, and the first thing my dad told me is like, man, you challenged my attachments to you as my son, as your dad. He's like, you put me through the ringer, and I knew that I couldn't be present for everybody else that I was going through this, and present for you if I was just attached to the outcome, to the future outcome of what was going to happen.
Dude, that's so
like,
heavy. No parent wants to outlive their child,
Yeah, it's a heavy story, but there's no bad ending to this one. And I was very fortunate to be amongst so many people that knew what to do right away. These like things that happened in perfect timing, in like this ball of chaos, from like Aaron pushing me into the perfect wave, from those two lifeguards being able to help Aaron Austin to get me to shore, to the guy giving me compressions, to the ambulance being there at the same exact time, to me getting to the hospital, to the doctor flipping me over, draining out my lungs because of this pandemic, because he found out that's probably what we should do because the lungs are compromised.
So they don't know exactly what started the heart infection, but they think it's something along the lines of long-term COVID.
They think, I think it was a virus. And how...
You were in Costa Rica, right?
I was in Costa Rica 2019.
At the end of 2019?
September, September through October. Yeah.
So kind of there.
Yeah.
You don't know if you contracted anything there, because then it would have been November, December, January, February, March.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think it was anything of that sort. I think I was stressing out my cardiovascular system and allowed some little virus to get in there and fuck with it.
Did you ever have any other days in your training for Ironman where you felt like, fuck, maybe something's a little off?
So I did pass out while running, and I remember that like 4 months later. I was like, oh, I thought I had like a heat stroke. I was running in San Oaks, right? You know where that is.
Yeah.
And I was at like the bottom part where it's all shaded, and I just remember just like pacing, running a little bit faster, obviously. So my heart was going a little bit faster, and I just fell to my knees, and I was like, wow, like I need water. So, and I passed out, and I remember I was on my hands and knees. And I was able to like knock myself out of it because I was just breathing so fast, and like I just slowed it down. I was like, oh, I got this.
You were by yourself?
I was by myself. And then I called my brother. I was like, bro, I can't run anymore. Like, I need you to come get me. I think I'm having a heat stroke.
Dang. And it could have been that. It could have
been that. It could have been the heart, but it felt very similar to how I felt paddling out.
Yeah. So you're in the hospital, coming to, like, feeling all the love from your family and
homies and friends.
Yeah, it's freaking amazing, dude. I remember seeing on social media, like, Austin was posting a lot about what happened to you.
Yeah.
And we sent in our videos, and they were trying to put that together just to show you that people were, like, caring and sending you the love. When did you, like, truly feel yourself? From when you woke up, how long did it take to where you're like, holy crap, my brain's still here?
That's a good question, because, I think...
Or did you never come back the same person?
I definitely haven't, and there's good days and there's bad days. There's days where I just feel like, wow, what the fuck just happened, and there's days like I am so grateful. I feel like Mr. Zen, Buddhist monk, Jesus walking on this earth, and I respect the process of healing from something traumatic and learning from how I was living prior to how I want to live now, which is like, season this life full of grace and, try to move forward in an authentic way, like just listening to my body and like, loving, man, I can't tell you how it felt to hug my dad. I can't tell you how good it felt to hug, all my homies, it was just like, it felt like a part of me was hugging like life itself. It was crazy. It's just insane. I feel like,
And you would have never, ever gotten that feeling or that perspective if this NDE would have happened.
Yeah, I think before then, we were all at a time where COVID was just like creating a divide between people, right versus left was creating a divide between people. So it was really hard to like find a sense of like peace and stillness with all this like chaos going around us. And I was running around frantically trying to find that, finding it in accumulating resources, trying to figure out new business opportunities, trying to, work out intensely. Yeah. I wasn't partying then. Remember, we were social distancing. So
no substances like on the low key.
No substances. I was pretty good for the most part. It was interesting because it just felt like when that happened to me, I was kind of losing faith in humanity itself. But it was awesome just to see so many people come together. Even like, you reaching out to me, or, my dad, like just dropping his life to like be present. So, and my mom too, and just like, okay, what can we do for Justin and my aunt? And like, they had to make decisions, everybody had to make decisions, and, they made the best decisions they could, and I'm still 100% intact.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me that like the humanness that we're all missing sometimes just shows up in a time of dire circumstances.
It's unfortunate that it takes these events to bring that out of us, right? Because it's the same thing with 9/11, or I know COVID was traumatic for a lot of people, but it gives like something common to fight against. People come together after events like 9/11. It takes something super traumatic like that to kind of snap you out of the day-to-day routine, just being caught up in your own bullshit, and especially with
masturbation is what I like to call it.
Mental masturbation.
Yeah,
that's true. It's like people find their crutches.
You get addicted to it.
Exactly, and it's just what are these like patterns that I create in my day-to-day life that make me feel kind of peaceful, but maybe a little stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
And within a family unit, I mean, there's people that go through this thousands every day where there's something so traumatic that happens that kind of brings everyone together. If someone's as lucky like yourself to come out on the other side.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine like what your dad was going through too, and your family.
Yeah. My friends too. And
everybody.
You could just see, I think a lot of my homies, they all got closer and closer. Just, remind themselves of like, life is right here. Like, we're all here. That's a good thing, Just
like in being present.
Yeah.
That was a common thread that you brought up when we were talking before.
I mean, I think most of my life was just kind of like distracting myself with vices, with people, things, to distract myself from like listening to myself, right? And, when I started to like kind of just be intimate with like how I was living and, feel like see something for the first time, feel something for the first time again. It kind of goes back to like dying and living to like the old idea of yourself. And that's all done in the present moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, I've spent a lot of time, just in suffering in my own head. And I don't want people to continue doing that to themselves because it sucks. Nobody wants to be in a dark space.
Because when you were there at the end,
that
puts in perspective like what really matters, and the problems that people complain about sometimes are so just surface level. Through hearing your story, it definitely puts things in perspective for me. And I was even telling you that like when I was leaving the gym a couple weeks ago, like there was this young man who like flagged me down, and I'm like, oh, what is that? I took out my headphones, and he wanted me to grab his wheelchair out of the back of his car so he can get out of the driver's seat and go work out. And it's just another instance where I'm like, God, like you need to put things in perspective sometimes. People don't do that. You get caught up in judging, like even within your own family unit, like your dad judging you judging your dad, judging your brother, or whatever it is. We just always have these judgments, and then God forbid something happens. it puts in check what really matters, and like your ability to love, the capacity I imagine you have to love, like friends and family and your significant other. It's totally different now.
Mm-hmm. And also you give off a whole new energy, man, when you just open yourself up to loving instead of like building up these like walls from another human being based on ideologies and concepts that don't really like pertain to like the human in us all, you know?
Oh, it's just super stoked to have you here still with us. So what has it been like? You mentioned the bad days sometimes. I want to dig in on that because it takes mental fortitude to be like, why did this happen to me? You can't be go happy. You can't be go happy, lucky all the time. You know that you're gonna have your good and bad days.
So
how do you get through that?
I was released around the hospital October 14th, and at that time I had gotten a ICD in place, a defibrillator, implantable defibrillator in place inside my lat here on the left hand side. And you know, we all thought everything was great, that we didn't know, okay, this is just a one-off thing. So weird how this happened. Very, very strange. No one knew what the heck was going on. No one knew if it was a virus at the time or some genetic thing that runs in my family.
Even at the point of being released, they still didn't know.
Still didn't know it. They're like, just go home, live your life. We'll keep you on these meds called, I forgot what it was called, that sedate you. So they control your heart's rhythm. They only allow it to like stay a certain way. So if I were to like try to run, I'd get winded. I was in a cardiovascular rehab doing the cardio machine slowly. Like guys were like helping me walk and stuff like that. So I was like really happy to be alive, and I knew I was going to come back because I just felt it. Like every day was just like this exponential like jump. You know, I started gaining more weight. I was eating like 2,500 calories a meal. Like, you know, I had like two chefs in the kitchen cooking for me at all times. Like I was like, I need to eat. I looked skinny. That was fun. I wish they would come back and cook for me.
Was it bomb food?
Yeah,
bomb food.
That was my mom and my grandma and like, you know, my aunt.
Everyone's
like,
still taking care of you.
Everyone's just taking care of me for like a good month.
So you're under rehab.
I'm under rehab. I'm feeling the warmth of everybody, and then, you know, I start to like the novelty of it starts to fade. Like I love like the love. And I start to feel very alone, and you know, the darkness starts to settle in, and it's because of the anxiety of this thing going off. And then eventually I went out to skateboard. No, actually first I'd gotten COVID, so my friends and I decided, because I was just stoked to like start walking and like hanging out with friends. We all like hung out one day, and then that was when COVID was really bad in Orange County, and then I got COVID. And that was terrible because my immune system was already shot, and I was sent back into the ER room. So I spent another couple of days there, and then I come out. My 14 days are still going. I'm like being treated by people in hazmat suits and stuff like that. So I'm just going like nuts at this point. I'm like,
what was the time difference between when you got out and when you contracted COVID?
So October to November, and around November 14th, like 13th or something
so
like that. So
not too far away from everything you went through. And did they instantly send you back into the ER just because they knew you were going to be really compromised, or did you get really, really bad symptoms that sent you back in?
So actually what had happened was I went skateboarding with all my friends, and we just like were this big pity party of COVID getters. Mm-hmm. We all hung out together. I won't name names because they'll just get mad at me.
You're like, we got it all together.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, this sucks. Let's just like play poker and watch TV and have COVID together.
Why not?
And then, you know, we were just skateboarding one day, and then I was just like, oh man, like I feel good. Like I can skate. Like this is cool. I still got like the skating in me, and I like was just doing tricks right and left, like having fun with the homies. And then I like get off my board, and then my heart starts to go haywire again. I was like, about to pass out. I just was standing there about to pass out, and I just get this shock to my heart. It was my ICD going off. And then at that time I was they took me back to the ER. I was in there for a couple days.
And that's when they're like, oh, you also have COVID?
Yeah.
Okay. So
No. I knew I had COVID. I tested positive, and then eventually I went back into the ER because of the defibrillator shocking me.
Got it. And what did that feel like?
It feels like you're getting kicked in the chest by a horse, essentially.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and you're just like, you jolt, you know? You just like jolt. Your whole body just like it doesn't make you pass out. It makes you go like limber, but
So your heart was beating
my heart was beating too fast.
And then it boom, like
yeah.
relax.
Let me see if I have like the paper to show you. Paper to show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like.
What do we got?
So right there is my heart being analyzed by the device, and it's going at, where is this area here? It's like the BPM. Shock zone 250. Shock zone 250. And it shocks me right here. You see how it reads right here, sensing.
Uh-huh.
The T means tachycardia, so it means my heart's going really fast. Sensing. Tachycardia. Charge. And then I think at like point something seconds, it shocks me.
To get it back to this state.
To get it back to normal rhythm.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's super crazy. My shit.
Does it have my address on there? I'm just kidding.
We'll block it out. Full SECG report treated.
Yeah.
Boston Scientific. That's fucking nuts, dude.
Isn't that cool? Here's another one too. This is from my shock in
kicked
April.
in the chest by a horse.
My shock in April. This one I had 2 shocks.
Oh, so this is lifetime data. They're pulling this. Okay. I didn't even connect the dots. That's incredible.
That's my shock from when I was grabbing my girlfriend's hand.
Yes, I want to hear this story.
Oh man,
the shock of love.
So these 2 shocks here, the one of me skateboarding and the one of me grabbing my girlfriend's hand.
Break that down for me. You're DJing on a boat, right?
I was DJing on a boat for a friend's party, and I was off my medication. So this is the reason why. I was on a weak medication on the first shock, the one that was skateboarding, and then eventually they put me on stronger medication, and then my heart was okay. But then during that time of waiting to hear what was going on, because they still didn't know, the doctors were like trying to figure it out, and then during that time they put me on stronger medication, and then my defibrillator was just going off randomly. Like I was riding a bike, a tandem bike with my housemate, and I got shocked, and we like did a fat bunny hop, and he was like laughing. He's like, "Bro, that was sick," and I was like, "Dude, I just got shocked." And then at that time, they were like, "Something's up." So they went to go check me. They realized that like the signal in the ICD was bad. So
jeez.
They were like, "Okay, well, we're gonna just up the dose of medication, and then we'll see what happens next." And then eventually, the next like 2 weeks go by, and then I got shocked again while doing yoga. I still couldn't like exercise or anything, so I was just like frustrated. I felt like I was trapped in my own body.
So this is your third shock.
This is my third shock.
Skateboard, bike, yoga.
Skateboard, bike, yoga.
So you're
all these like activities I love, dude.
You're like, fuck, like this is supposed to be helping me, but it's malfunctioning. Like,
yeah.
Fuck, is this gonna end? Like,
yeah.
You know?
And then eventually in January they brought me into surgery.
Of this year, 21?
Yeah,
okay.
2021. Or 2021, like around January 13th or something like that, and they cut me open. They moved the piece of the ICD. They moved it up and out a little bit to like pick up the signaling, and they were able to like grab the lead that runs right here and position it closer to my heart, or on top of it.
This was after,
and then the signal picked up. Yes, this was after the
girlfriend?
No, this is before the girlfriend.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, timelines are all messed up.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to give everyone clear things. Okay, so they open you back up.
Yeah. And then between the random shocks, they were like, "Dude, there's something, like, why'd you guys send him home? It says right here in the paperwork, like, there's something wrong with his the electrophysiology of his heart. There's scarring, like near his left ventricular artery or something like that." And my doctor, my electrophysiologist, was able to find it. And when they went to go reposition the ICD, they were able to like kind of tease it. They were like they did an electro. I forget what it's called. I should be doing my homework before I hop on these.
No, you're fine. So they're testing
they didn't
the location?
They did an EPS study. So they went to go study the heart, see where the scarring was, the myocarditis, what the myocarditis caused, and test it and see if that was a spot. And they found the spot, and they're like, "Okay, like you need to have an ablation done." And they said we can't do the ablation right now because COVID has swarmed our hospitals. Like we needed to have these ICU beds open, blah, 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 and all this stuff. So I waited till April, from January to April, to get that ablation surgery done. Yeah, it was a long time of like just feeling like I was just trapped in my body and I couldn't move. It was crazy.
Because they still wanted exercise.
Yeah.
Exercise was limited at this point.
And they had me on like a good dosage of Sodalol, which is a beta blocker, and it kind of just like
dulled
me out, and I didn't have like this zest for life attitude. I did, but like I tried to like go running, and I would just feel like I'm gonna pass out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they located the scar tissue in January. And that led to them figuring out the virus?
No, the virus is still, we don't know what the virus was. We know that it was a virus. We don't.
What's the name again? What was it called?
The what?
The actual infection?
So myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle.
Oh, okay.
It's caused by a virus or trauma to the heart.
And they don't know.
They don't know where it came from.
They just knew the myocarditis and the scar tissue.
Yeah, it's a symptom of the or not a symptom, but of the virus caused myocarditis. Caused me to go to ventricular tachycardia, which is a type of cardiac arrest essentially that I was going through, what my heart was doing. And what I needed done was an ablation to remove that scar tissue, which was the size of half a penny on the left side of my heart. So I did the ablation surgery, I believe like around 4/27, around that time, yeah.
And since April 27th,
everything's been chill, amazing. I'm off the meds, and I'm just, feeling good again. So,
do you want to show the camera what it looks like? You don't have to. You don't want to.
No, I think I won't do that just yet.
That's really chill. I think you did it before, but we were off air.
Yeah.
That's gnarly, man. You literally have this little piece
of machinery, bro.
Just right there.
Yeah.
And it's still its job in case something were to happen.
It's alive. Yeah, it's alive and well. It's dormant, and if it needs to come, it's gonna shock me. But there's been no signs of heart palpitations or anything like that. So
happy to hear it.
Yeah, I'm alive and kicking.
God, those January to April, those months of just waiting for this surgery. You literally know now, like something's wrong with me internally.
Yeah,
like they've identified it.
Yeah,
and now I'm just being told to wait.
And just dose myself out with more medication. It was a gnarly time, but I also was prolonging it because I was afraid of the ablation itself. So I was just kind of fed up with surgery. I was just fed up. I was just like, I don't want to be in the hospital anymore.
Yeah.
And then when I got shocked twice on the boat.
Oh yeah, the boat. So what happened?
You want to hear the start to a love story? Oh yeah. So I was on a boat DJing in San Diego, and I went to grab my girlfriend's hand, Nikita, and at the time we hadn't been kissing or anything. So it caused some heart palpitations. Then boom, I got shocked, and then I went to go sit down, and I got shocked again, and then eventually I was like, we need to get to shore. By that time the party was ending at 9, and then it was perfect timing too. So I was able to like slip away from the party, leave all my gear there, and then I just went back to the hotel and slept. I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. I know I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, I was like, I just like kind of just like eased into, doing things again. And then I think that was a Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday I went in and got my ablation done.
Dang. So it was that nervous feeling of that. You like someone, your heart
crazy.
Always beats when
your
you're first gonna make a move. You just go to grab her hand, and literally your heart's like, "Fuck off! Don't do that."
Yeah,
like, hits you.
so funny.
Dude, the power of love.
Yeah, the power of love.
It'll cause your defibrillator to go
right,
off.
Right. That's just it. The power of love, man, kept me alive too.
Well, your new lease on life. Do you have like any new goals, or are you kind of just taking it easy with like, oh, now that I have this, I have to do X? Or is it more of taking a step back, kind of just living in the moment and being like, I don't have to do anything now. I just need to love and stay connected and stay present.
Right. I think it's the latter. It's always going to be the latter for me, I think. Even when, when I'm trying to do something business oriented, it's going to be done in that way. with a state of like, grace and presence, and, not being too crazy and anxious and needy and I want this, it's got to happen. There's a way to be assertive and, be aggressive with life. A good way to do it is to stay present, in my opinion. And
I agree, because I think it gives you the capacity to hone in and focus and be driven when needed to be. Because if you're turned on all the time, I know some people can operate in that state. I can't do it. I'll stress myself out.
Burn out.
It's knowing when to turn it on and off, and just kind of going back and forth and just figuring out.
Have you read that book, Power versus Force?
No, I have not.
You should read it. It talks about how to, it's like, I forget exactly what it's called.
Grant, can you pull that up?
Power versus Force.
Power is force?
Power versus Force.
Power versus Force. I think we all can gather that message from your story of just, for one, appreciating life, being present. These things come up and you're told, like, tell your loved ones that you love them.
Yeah.
Just be kinder.
Yeah.
Then also just don't be so critical on yourself. Like, relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to not be constantly turned on all the time. Just
my brother was like, dude, you probably gave yourself this virus. I was like, you're right.
Power versus force.
Power versus Force.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to read it.
Yeah.
David R. Hawkins.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had access to a simple yes or no answer to any question you wish to ask.
It's like goes back to what I was saying about the body knows. Like, you just got to tune into that.
The universe holds its breath as we choose, instant by instant, which pathway to follow. For the universe, the very essence of life itself, is highly conscious. And that was that unconsciousness you were in was being guided by this universal consciousness.
Right.
Dude, I think you kind of got to like the gates of afterlife, like whatever that is.
Yeah.
There's something that, because we a common thread, we're trying to identify like which virus, why were you thinking X, Y, and Z, and when you were sedated, and it's just constantly trying to figure things out. And the same applies with this afterlife. It's like we know something, like something's there. We just don't know what.
And I could tell you this is like when I was out of the hospital, I spent most of my days pondering that thought, and it almost drove me mad. I was like, what was that? What was that? What was like, what trying to make sense of everything. And then, like there comes a point where you just got to like drop it and start to live your life, this happened, that happened, move forward. Something else is going to happen. You just got to keep moving forward. Like I came out relatively unscathed compared to the reality of it. I drowned. I had some viral infection. I had
multiple cardiac
arrests. And and I always, every day I wake up and I'm just like, I'm fucking lucky.
Your interpretation of death now, are you less scared of death?
No, I'm not afraid of death. It's interesting because I remember I told you in the beginning of the podcast, like, death is like this easy thing. It was like this forceful letting go of like who you were, and you weren't attached to anything around you or any sense of that. And if that's how death really is, then I think we should respect life more with reverence, because life itself is a gift, and so is dying. And I think we can die to ourselves every day. Like I just said, the thoughts that we have, the negative ones, you can put that to rest and put that to bed and continue to move forward.
Well said, because it's like not taking things so seriously when at the end you're just going to go to this peaceful place. So
and to live in fear of death, I think, is going to drive more suffering into your life. So
that's heavy. Well, dude, it was incredible. Like, thank you for coming on and explaining exactly like what happened. And it just, it really makes me take a step back and just appreciate everything that I've been through, all the people I know, all the amazing friends and family members and loved ones that I have in my life.
Yeah.
And even like just being a brother to you and just like being present. Like we're here, like you're here, and you literally had a second lease on life that most people, especially not our age, 27 years old, will ever go to and until you're at the very end. But it gives me hope that it is going to be okay, and that the end, whatever is next, it's going to be premised by peace. And I think people can find comfort in that.
Right.
Being less critical and just live in the moment. And dude, you're absolutely insane. I'm stoked you're still here, bro.
I'm stoked too.
We love you, man.
I'm stoked too, brother. It's a trip. And I think with last thing being said, I think if you don't know CPR or anything of that sort, you should definitely look into it. I think this is more common than you think, especially with COVID happening. There's been more cardiac events. So, I'm here to bring awareness to that. And I'm also here to remind you to keep living. And, if it happens, it happens. And you got to keep moving forward.
Good point. Let's all get CPR certified.
Yeah.
Never know who you're going to have to save.
Yeah. All my friends are, I think. If you're not, I'll be mad. I'm just kidding.
Schedule an appointment. All right, brother. Well, hey, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro.
All right,
Thank
you
you,
guys.
Grant.
With that being said, talking goes a long way. See you next time.